Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, we are now joined by Andrew Demsky from Tampa Bay Downs. If you've been watching the simulcast this season, you've seen Andrew in the paddock prior to the races giving some thoughts. That's a new position for him, and we're happy to have him on the Wednesday lineup here on Racing Across America. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Seth. Thanks for having me.
Since it's the first time, and since you're fairly new to folks who are watching the simulcast signal, I've certainly read a little bit about your background as you were introduced down there at Tampa with articles in the various publications that noted you would be doing the paddock commentary now. But introduce yourself to the audience a little bit. How'd you get involved with horse racing?
Well, I grew up 10 minutes from Belmont Park, so my grandfather was a big fan, and he's really the one who got me involved early. Believe it or not, I didn't really start playing the horses till much later, but it was always fun just to see them, of course. But once you start playing and you realize the puzzle ahead of you, you catch that bug, can't get it out of your system. So it's been that way ever since.
And talk a little bit about, because you're kind of in the same boat I am. As I was looking last night, I saw you'd done some nice productions up at Canterbury Downs, kind of video productions of behind-the-scenes personalities and whatnot. Really nice job, and as I say, you're kind of in my boat because years and years I had a television production company myself up in Saratoga Springs and did a kind of similar types of the production work you were doing. I really appreciated some of the pieces you put together. Talk a little bit about your television background and how you transitioned over to handicapping the horses on in front of the camera.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking a look at the Connections series I put together. Like I've always been a behind-the-scenes kind of guy doing video production work. I worked in baseball for 4 years doing stadium entertainment and video work. But because I've always been a horse racing fan, I figured I'd take a shot and get involved in horse racing. And that little web series was really the first thing I got involved with, was putting together the Connections videos, and had a great time with that. A lot of the trainers and riders were very welcoming, and certainly had a great time with it as well. I think, having a camera around, it really didn't seem to mind it, and some hammed it up more than others, but certainly it was a lot of fun. But I guess the more production work I did, the more people would tell me, hey, you should be in front of the camera. You should be on camera. I said, okay. So I gave it a shot last season, in my first season working in horse racing here at Tampa Bay Downs. Gave it a shot last season. Margot let me fill in for her a little bit at the end of the year. The last month filling in, doing the last race, handicapping it on air. And then she offered me the position at the end of the season, so couldn't really turn it down. It seemed like a good time, and I had a great time doing it. But yeah, I continued everything up at Canterbury Park this summer. I didn't do any handicapping there. Angela Herman's a fantastic paddock preview show host and a fantastic handicapper in her own right. But I did do a little opening of the show there, which was nice to do a little on-camera stuff as well.
You still doing some of the production work down at Tampa?
I plan on it. Right now, my schedule is it's a lot busier than I expected. When you have to handicap a card, I'm spending 5-6 hours a night easily per card because I want to get it as right as I can. So I'm putting in as much work as I can, and so far the results have been good.
No, I hear you, because I'm in doing this show, and a few days a week I do the handicapping show that's on just prior to this as well, so I know that it involves a lot of work. Let me ask you this, though. We will see if we have a meeting of the minds here, because I don't know a lot of people who have transitioned out of television production into handicapping, but let me get your take. I love being out in front of the camera. In my days when I was out there with the camera on my shoulder, and I precede you. I had the big 3/4-inch deck that was hanging off my side, so I was anchored down. But you would have that talent out there. They were always complaining, and the microphone, can you adjust it? And I had to worry about the lights and the equipment breaking. Being over here on the front side of the camera, being the talent is so much nicer. You come in the morning, you plug on the microphone, and you're good to go. Do you find it that way too?
I do have to say it is a lot easier. I don't understand it. Yeah, I mean, when they said your job is just to talk about horse racing and you have to hold the microphone, how hard is that? Are you kidding me? There's so much more that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know. But I do still work for our TV production company here at the track as well. So I'm actually up and down the stairs here, going from our TV room down to get on air, back and forth every race. So I do fill in here and do a little help out with some robotic camera operations during the race as well. So I'm still behind the scenes a little bit, but certainly do enjoy being on camera.
Very good. Well, I've certainly been watching the simulcast signal, and you've been doing a great job so far, so we'll tap into your experience here as we're a few weeks into the meet and get some of your thoughts this afternoon. Before we touch on some specific races, what's the weather look like this morning?
Oh, temperatures, I guess, mid-70s right now, but we are overcast. Cloudy skies. We had some rain yesterday here in Oldsmar, so we'll see how that affects the track. Sometimes, I mean, obviously we've had a little bit of a speed bias here. We always do, especially in our sprint races on the main track. But with some moisture in the track, we'll see how that affects it today. And I'm going to try to play some off-the-pace horses a little bit today because of that.
All right, let's take a look at some of the races specifically. We'll start things out in the opener. It's a maiden claimer, 15 to 16 tags. These are 2-year-olds going 7 furlongs. What are your thoughts in race 1?
Yeah, I actually like the Arterburn horse in here. Father to our team, Brittany and Lonnie, send this one out, and this one had a bad start in the last race there. Got off really slow, didn't really get involved in the race too early, but once the horse found feet, really got going, which was really nice. So once he found his feet, he progressed very nicely through the race, so I think this one could improve. And the only real threat I saw in this one was a horse who actually comes out of the same race, Mike the Bear, and that horse just had the perfect trip last time. Just had the rail run, rail rally, so it looked better than it really was. I don't see that horse getting the same trip today, so I'm going to take a swing with a little bit of a price in the opener, and I think this Audubon horse could get it done, probably around 5 or 6 to 1.
Yeah, we're looking at number 7, In a Swagger, 6 to 1 on the morning line, and I agree. Off of that first race, that price should hold up. But we talked about this earlier this week. We were talking with John McGeary at Mahoney in a similar situation. These are the kind of horses, particularly when it's only the second career start. You got kind of the fresh face in here against some of these that have had plenty of opportunities to get it done. And with a horse with one start under the belt, got some education, there is some upside there. I'm with you. I kind of like that fresh face in these kind of races.
Yeah, I'm always looking for upside. The other contender here is that outside runner, Mr. Double Standard, the Hinsley runner. That one's had his chances. So, I mean, I did take a shot with him earlier in the meet. Actually, his first opening day of the meet here, the 29th, or the second day of the meet, I should say. I took a shot with that horse. Didn't do much running. Returned to not do much running again. And again, that one got a morning line prediction of 4 to 1. And I don't see that horse do much running. So, certainly a good chance to swing away with a price in the opener.
All right, let's take a look at the third at Tampa this afternoon. Optional claimer, 75,000 tags, non-winners of one other than. These are 2-year-old fillies scheduled on the turf at 1 mile and a 16th. And Andrew, this was a race I actually looked at a little bit earlier and found intriguing. I used the Pletcher horse on top. I mean, obviously, it's Pletcher. He picks up Daniel Santino, has a race over the track, a near-miss effort at 3 to 5. I think that's the horse you have to beat. But I thought number 3, Spout Run from Joan Scott, maybe a little intriguing off of the race last time, which was pretty good. It was a maiden breaker. Now they get ambitious placing this one, coming out of 32,000 and dropping into this 75,000 optional claimer. And Lady Foghorn looked a little bit intriguing to me as well with the start over the turf last time in similar company that I thought was okay. And they got, with that experience under the belt, may be able to move forward a little bit. So for me, I thought 7, 3, 4. How did you see the third?
Yeah, no, I actually took it. I went Alcazalia on top, the Pletcher horse. I took Well Composed, the 5 horse, for second, and then I went with Lady Foghorn. I'm not sure about Spout Run in here. Obviously, Joan Scott has some confidence in this one, putting this horse in this spot. I just don't know if that maiden claiming race is going to hold up here. I kind of wish this race was carded later on the card. The horse that Spout Run beat that day, Apriski, runs later today's race, so I kind of wish I got to see how that one returns, which would have been nice. But I'm not sure that race will hold up, but certainly horses surprise me all the time. But yeah, Alcazalia is going to be very tough. Ran into a good one last time in Cardinal Cove. That was a Kathleen O'Connell horse. Comes out of a very similar race at Gulfstream Park West, Cardinal Cove, where she came from well back in debut to win. Did the same thing again, hooked up with Alcazalia in the stretch. It was just a nice stretch battle. Cardinal Cove got the nod that day, but Alcazalia is going to be very tough in here today. For second, I know you like Spout Run, Lady Foghorn, but I actually went with Well Composed, the Proctor runner. I do like horses coming out of Kentucky Downs. Not an easy course to get over. So whenever a horse comes out of there with a nice win, and it was a good battle, I rewatched that race 2 times, and it was a good battle through the stretch. Obviously stretching out today, but could be good for Tom Proctor, and he does very well, of course, here at Tampa, so can't complain there.
Yeah, and you brought up an angle that I've mentioned probably for the last 2 months that I really like as well. Horses making their next start after having left Kentucky Downs. Now, for me, it's more potent maybe in the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks after that meet, but with probably the last 3 weeks, I've seen a couple horses that have been on layoffs like this since Kentucky Downs get it done. And it is Tommy Proctor, and I have no argument there. Well Composed is probably the one that scares me the most that I left off. And Spout Run, no question about it, is a little roll of the dice. I just thought the confident move up was a little bit intriguing. And the price will be there to support it, but I have no argument with your horses underneath as well. All right, let's shift out to race number 6 this afternoon. Optional claimer. We're talking $16,000 tags. Non-winners of one other than the condition. 5.5 of the trip. And this is another race that I took a look at and found a little bit intriguing. I thought Shore Runner was interesting. The horse that I really find interesting, if the morning line holds up, is Abba, who, the number 1 horse in here, who a couple of starts at Churchill Downs and then broke the maiden last time at Mountaineer, now comes down to Tampa. I think the numbers are pretty solid on this horse, nice improving numbers, particularly that maiden breaker at Mountaineer. Yeah, it was such an improvement. You have to wonder about that number a little bit. But boy, if that 4-1 holds up, the number 1 looks interesting to me. How did you see the 6th?
I actually went the exact same route with Shore Runner finishing over ABBA 1-2. John Terranova, I'm not sure he's ever been here in Tampa before. I know him from up in New York for sure, following the New York circuit for most of my life. But this runner should be good coming out of New York. Good, should show speed, but also shows the ability to rate, which is nice. So if he doesn't get the lead, certainly could come from off the pace. And he might not get the lead if ABBA repeats that last run at Mountaineer. This horse does show speed from the inside, and no doubt Ronnie Allen's going to send this one. I'm not sure that 18-lane score is as impressive as it really looks on paper. Didn't really face too much that day, but you get that a lot at Mountaineer. You see horses draw off and win by ridiculous margins, so I wouldn't really, it doesn't really blow my mind that he won by 18 that day, but that inside speed should help ABBA, and we'll see what happens. Certainly faced good company at Churchill. But I'm still on Shore Runner in here. I thought this was a good race for Shore Runner to pick up a nice win here.
And just before we let you go, Andrew, I want to touch on the human side, because in that third race we just looked at, you talked about John Terranova at Tampa, but in the third race we looked at a few minutes ago, I noted Owen Hardy has a horse in there. And I pulled up Tampa Stats earlier this week because I was reading an article in the Racing Forum about Gallardo and how well he's doing on the jockey side. Owen Hardy is sitting, top 2, top 3 in the trainers, so he's doing very well down there also. Who are some of the trainers and jockeys we should keep our eyes on?
Right now, anything coming out of Chad Stewart's barn, I would keep my eye on. He's been sending out a lot of good horses so far this meet. Captain O'Connell, of course, doing pretty well as well. But those two can be sneaky good. One down here has very few horses. A man named Johnny Vincent. He runs up in Suffolk. This guy sends out horses that are constantly in the money at big odds. I don't know how he does it, but it's fantastic. And he might have a small stable, maybe 10 or less horses, but when they show up, always throwing them into my vertical wagers. And as far as the riders go, right now Gallardo is probably, I don't know the exact stat, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to guess he's around 50% on turf. And I've always been a big fan of Harry Vega on the turf here. Harry Vega's been around, for decades. Fantastic rider, but what Gallardo's doing on the turf is comparable to what Harry Vega's done on the turf here in the past. So certainly keep your eye on him on any turf mount, and really Gallardo any mount he rides. But he's done some things. I've always been a big proponent of a good jockey can make a slow horse run better, but a poorer rider could make a good horse lose a race. But Gallardo is somehow flipping that around and making horses that I see have no chance. Somehow he's putting them in the money on the turf. So certainly look at him.
He's having an incredible beginning to the meet. Whereas I'm kind of surprised De La Cruz, who was so good early in the meet last year, he's off to a little bit of a slow start. So Santino's sitting right up there. He's always up there. So some of the usual suspects and some guys who I suspect at some point the key will turn a little bit. And I'm thinking of De La Cruz. I think he has to heat up at some point. And before we let you go, I just want to go back to last Saturday. Want to take a look at the Gasparilla because we haven't looked at that yet. We looked at the Pasco earlier. Speaking of Chad Stewart, I think Catalina Red is going to be interesting going forward. We were talking with Jeremy Plunk, probably on the sprint side, but it was a nice race by him in the Pasco track record. But earlier on the card was the Gasparilla. We're going to watch the stretch run here and watch number 6, Irish Jasper, get it done. 7-1. I guess buyer figure-wise, I can see the price, but this horse was coming out of a nice starter allowance win up at Parks prior to this. Won by daylight at a short price, and Irish Jasper gets it done. The number 6 horse at 7-1. What did you think of that performance?
Yeah, I actually I touted Irish Jasper in our
Nice.
little morning show we did at the track here. I put the one on top on air, and did not let me down for sure. That race at Parks, to rewatch that stretch run, I mean, one tap of the stick and the horse just rebroke and absolutely accelerated. And I figure if that horse reproduces anything like that and can rebreak again when the rider really asked this horse to run, really curious what she could do, and she certainly didn't disappoint. A huge effort in the Gasparilla and didn't let me down at all.
Yeah, that was a nice call because, again, that price looked just 6-1 on the morning line. And, again, buyer figure-wise, AP's Glory, the favorite, certainly had a little bit of a buyer edge. But these are lightly raced horses, new track, and coming off of that performance, boy, that 7-1 looked very generous. So
yeah, I was actually really surprised to get that kind of price. So I was very happy when that price held up. And, yeah, I mean, the AP's Glory horse, certainly a good runner, but comes out of this very similar stake to this one in Mountaineer. Ran a good race, couldn't complain, but yeah, Irish Jasper certainly very, very impressive in that one.
Yeah, always fun. The 2-year-olds this time of year, the calendar's turning. There'll be 3-year-olds that will be able to watch throughout the early part of the season, obviously at Tampa. So a couple of nice 2-year-old races, both on the girls and boys side this past weekend. Andrew, got to wrap things up. We appreciate the visit this morning. Glad to have you plugged in on Wednesday. So good luck this afternoon, and we'll talk to you again next week.